Today we're going to talk about cooking and some other items in the household. First of all, we start with what I call the era of fireplace cooking. That's before we had stoves that burned wood in the kitchen that had a top on them and so forth. So we're talking now about the middle 1850s and before. Now many of these items don't date back to such an early period, perhaps, but they are of the kinds of tools that were used at that time by the housewife in cooking. For instance, these tin dipper here, and one of brass. And here's one that's of iron and pounded out over a round ball by a blacksmith. This has kind of got a mixture of regular iron and steel in it. And of course these forks of this way, they're all hand forged and made in a blacksmith shop. It's just hard to recall or to remember that in those days, if we needed something on a farm home or in a rural village, why, you went to the blacksmith and you asked him to make it for you. This is a forged iron, not a forged iron. This little ladle in here, it's just pounded out by the blacksmith. And another one is made out of semi-steel here. See, back in the early days, they had just crude iron that they had, but later they discovered that if they added carbon in certain quantities of it, that it would make it harder and also smoother. And then they worked on this. See here, it's a kind of an egg or pancake turner. Now, we had talked about this being fireplace type cooking, and so you'll notice that even a skillet has legs on it. Three legs, and that's to keep it on the hearth. And the way you get the heat to it is to use a little hook on it and pull the coals toward it and pile it around the edge of the skillet, and the heat then would be distributed evenly underneath the pan. Now here's a flat bottom kettle. It would sit flat on a stove top, but it was used for in fireplace cooking or hearth cooking, and it also has legs under it because you would pull with a little hoe, you'd pull the hot embers underneath it. Quite often it was one-pot cooking in those days. They put the meat, the vegetables, and other things into the same kettle, and so you used the same fire to cook several different items, and often referred to as one-pot cooking, and that was to save handling lots of different pots separately, as we frequently do today. Here's a muffin tin. 11. Makes 11 muffins and not 12. It's cast iron. Here's a rather crude one, but it's very heavy muffin tin, kind of decorative, however. 12 muffins. And above it we have a pancake grill. It can fit over two sections of a present-day stove like that. That is, when I say present day, when they were burning wood yet in the kitchen and the kitchen stove, and you can have cooked pancakes for a large family. Hogs were raised everywhere by just about every farmer because it was good meat to eat, but the lard was so valuable. They used it in their cooking and for making pie crusts and all of that. And in early days, they used the fat after it was rendered as a fuel for lamps. In other words, lard lamps. So hogs had many, many uses, and of course also the skin and other products left from it, and the sausages and so forth that were made. It's a lard press. I'm sorry about that, but the lard then, the liquid fat would run out of this little trough right here. So that's a lard press. Here's another lard press right here hanging on the wall. And the handle would go out. You put this on a bench and squeeze, and then the liquid would run out of these little holes, and you would then catch it into some kind of pan.